On the night of April 25, 1980, the silence of the remote Iranian desert was shattered. A massive American military helicopter had just slammed into a transport plane in the pitch black. This was Operation Eagle Claw, the most complex rescue mission in American history. It ended with 8 soldiers dead and millions of dollars in advanced equipment left burning in the sand. This single failed night provided the spark that allowed Iran to build a political and military structure that continues to defy the West 4 decades later. The roots of the crisis trace back to 1979, when the Islamic Revolution ousted Iran's pro-Western monarch, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. When the United States granted him asylum for medical treatment, tensions between the two nations reached a breaking point. On November 4, 1979, hundreds of Iranian students retaliated. They swarmed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, scaling the perimeter walls and overwhelming the security details inside. The students took 52 American diplomats hostage. For months, images of blindfolded Americans with bound hands were broadcast globally, creating an agonizing and highly public standoff for the United States. Diplomatic channels failed, and billions in Iranian assets were frozen, but the hostages remained. Under mounting domestic pressure, President Jimmy Carter authorized a top-secret military rescue to end the crisis by force. The plan required helicopters and transport planes to fly undetected into the Iranian interior, converging at a remote staging area known as Desert One. From there, commandos would fly into Tehran under the cover of darkness to extract the hostages from a local stadium. But the mission was crippled by a massive, unpredicted dust storm. The fine sand caused mechanical failures in 3 of the 8 helicopters, leaving the team without enough aircraft to proceed. The commanders were forced to abort the mission before it even reached Tehran. During the frantic attempt to leave the desert, a helicopter collided with a transport plane. The survivors were forced to abandon their burning aircraft, their equipment, and even classified documents as they fled the country. The world watched as a superpower's attempt to rescue its own citizens ended with abandoned helicopters and a retreat. For international observers, American military power suddenly had a visible limit. The hostages remained in captivity for 444 days, finally being released the same day Ronald Reagan was sworn in as president. The failure of the rescue had helped end Jimmy Carter's political career. In Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini used the defeat of the Americans to consolidate his domestic support. He framed the event as divine intervention, using the momentum to formally establish the Islamic Republic. The new government was structured to prevent any future Western interference. At the top of the hierarchy was the supreme leader, a position designed to hold final authority over every branch of the state. Below the leader, Khomeini established the Guardian Council. This group of 12 clerics and judges was given the power to vet every political candidate in the country, ensuring that only those loyal to the revolution could ever run for office. This specific filter means that no candidate can take power in Iran without the council's approval, effectively blocking any attempt at pro-Western political reform from within. Khomeini also distrusted the regular Iranian military, fearing that officers trained under the old regime might eventually launch a US-backed coup. To counter this, he created the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a parallel military force focused entirely on regime survival. They were supported by the Basij, a volunteer militia capable of deploying massive waves of citizens during a crisis. Rather than engaging the U.S. in direct combat, the IRGC utilizes its Quds force to fund and arm proxy militias throughout the Middle East. By supporting groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis, Iran can exert influence far beyond its own borders. The failure of the American rescue mission handed the new Iranian government the political capital to build a system of overlapping checkpoints designed to resist outside interference. 40 years later, that structure remains in place. The question is, will the United States ever find a way to navigate the political and military architecture that its own historical failure helped create?